I am 74 years old. I am a lung cancer survivor. I just got the 2.5 year mark clear, so that's good. I have been an athlete for most of my life. I've run 37 marathons. I compete as a physique athlete, even at my age, against people who are a lot younger than I am. I am a businessman. I have degrees from good universities in physics and aeronautics and astronautical engineering. And I've worked at interesting places like the Jet Propulsion Laboratories Advanced Projects Group. And then ever since then, I've been in private companies, most of which I started.
Yeah.
And,
and let me ask you something, because some people might not know this. So you survived lung cancer 2 years ago.
yeah.
So you have one lung.
I have half a lung missing, so I have 1.5 lungs.
1.5 lungs.
Yeah.
And you ran a marathon after that.
No, I have not run a marathon after that.
Okay.
I'm still working up to that.
Yes.
I'm still working up to that. So the goal is,
Yeah.
I've got 37 marathons, I've done 30 states. The goal is to finish all 50 states.
Okay.
And all 8 continents, counting the North Pole as a continent.
And have you competed in physique after that?
I've competed in physique after that, as recently as last year.
Yes.
Came in second in my category, which was, old guy masters physique, so over 60, which is interesting given that I was 73 at the time. Yeah. And I came in second. And the guy that beat me should have. He was really good. I was disappointed not to be able to compete this year at Townsend Johnson, but I hope to compete in the fall.
Yeah.
So I have always been active. And I learned that from my parents, who lived well into their 90s, and they did so by being extremely active their entire lives.
Yeah.
And so I kind of like the model. So.
That's, yeah. And so when I first met you and you told me about your story about surviving lung cancer and doing fitness, doing bodybuilding, following a strict meal plan, going to the gym and working out, when a lot of people just give excuses, and you told me something about excuses. And I would love for you to tell the audience about excuses.
You will always have reasons why you don't want to go to the gym, you don't want to do anything that you're supposed to do, but I'll concentrate it on the gym. You will always have excuses, but if you want to be in good shape, to be fit, to be healthy, you have to do something about it. There's a hell of a lot of a difference between wishing and wanting. I meet all sorts of people who wish they were in decent shape. They go to the gym, they apparently engage in social conversation because they sure as heck don't work out, and year after year they look exactly the same or worse. And then there are those who go there and are alone, they concentrate on the weights, they concentrate on the treadmill, they concentrate on the bikes, and they look great. You have a choice. You can make excuses, or you can simply get out there and do things. That's not just for the gym, that's for life. Most of us sit around, binging on YouTube or watching The Expanse on Netflix. Go out there and live. Do things that set you apart from the rest of people, not because they're setting you apart, but because for some reason people don't do this. And there's no reason for that.
And I wanted to ask you a question. Do you think that fitness and having the discipline in your health portrays in business?
Oh yeah, absolutely. In two major ways. One that you might not immediately think of. If you're healthy and fit, everything works better, including your business opportunities. The other is, if you take charge of your life, they're both an example of taking charge of your life. If you take charge of your life, if you say, this is my life, I'm going to live it, then a lot of things follow from that. That you take care of your body, that you use your body as a support for the entire rest of your life. In business, you're honest, you're hardworking, you pursue specific goals that are definable, and those techniques are identical to the ones that tell you how to eat, how to lift, how to run. So the rules are actually very, very similar. It's been 40 years since I worked for someone else. And mostly I've pursued technologies that I've invented and my team has invented. But that's not the secret. The secret is setting goals, whatever they are, and going after them. And don't let people tell you can't do it. But worst of all, don't tell yourself you can't.
Yeah.
You'll fail. I've failed lots and lots and lots of times.
Yeah.
There's only one way not to fail, and that's don't do anything.
Yeah. And with building a team and having that team, like you mentioned, having that team, have you found it easier? Because I'll tell you a little bit about me is like, with me, with my marketing agency and having a team, it's a lot easier to reach out to, have a specialist in this area, have a specialist in this area, rather than trying to do everything on my own. Do you think that having a team and maybe losing more money or not making as much profit as you normally would be better for the business rather than having a one-man team and doing all the work?
I have made a fair amount of money on companies. I've never done it without a partner. And I've made more money because I had partners than I would have on my own. Because I have a very strong rule: hire people smarter and more capable than I am. And as a result, I get to use them for my help.
Yeah.
They help me achieve my goals. What they want is motivation. What I want is perfection and the ability to do things. I'm not a hard task driver. I'm fun. My companies are always fun to be in. That's not what I meant by being I'm not a hard taskmaster. But I do look for one thing with the people that I hire. And it's more important than anything else. I look for what I call the spark. A person who is proactive, who's in charge of his own life, is the kind of person I want. You don't have to, two proactive people don't have to fear each other. They can work together, or not, as the choice may be. But I have found it far better to work with people like that. There's the old saying that first-rate people want to work with first-rate people and second-rate people want to work with third-rate people. That's true, but it's more true than you can possibly imagine. Because if you want to accomplish something, hire people who can help you. Or get hired by people that you can help.
Yeah.
And there's no great secret. You don't have to start by running your company. But I have found that if you set that as an intentional goal, finding people with a spark, finding people in charge of their own lives, not only will you find such people, but they'll find other people for you. Yeah. And it'll cascade until you have an extremely successful company.
Yeah. And you told me something a while back, and it really stuck with me about the gas station analogy. You asked someone how many gas stations, and Dave told me this a while back, and he said, when I'm hiring someone, I ask them, how many gas stations do you think there are in the U.S.? And I'll let you say
one of the most important things. My companies are all high tech, and the way I filter for people that are appropriate for my company is, first of all, I never look at grades. I only look at what courses they took, because it's easy to get a perfect grade, so don't study anything hard. I want to know the people who actually have studied things hard, but I want people who are quick on their feet and whose brains work. So we ask bizarre, off-the-wall questions of the people that we interview. And one of the questions that I'm traditionally will ask is, how many gas stations are there in the United States? Now, I happen to know the number is 168,000, but that's just because I looked it up because I asked that question, not because I knew it.
Yeah.
And I don't really care how many gas stations there are, because I'm not trying to find out the answer to that. I'm trying to find out how the person thinks. So they may start by saying, well, there's 350 million people in the United States. There's about 300 million cars. Cars get about 10,000 drive about 10,000 miles a year on the average. They get about 25 miles to the gallon on the average. And you begin to see how much gasoline gets used in the United States. Then you can make an estimate from number of pumps, how much is used, and who's buying it.
Yeah.
And you can get, fairly close, actually. I've had people get reasonably close to the right answer by arguing that way. But we ask that question, it doesn't have to be a gas station. It can be almost anything that is not, you're
The
cute.
dog's coming in the
You're so cute.
Yeah.
You're a ham, too. You want to be in the video. That's what it is. It's what makes the person think. I have asked those questions and been told by a candidate, but I've never answered those kind of questions before. And I said, yeah, we're a high-tech company. We don't answer questions that have already been answered. Yeah. And we did not hire that person.
Yeah.
Finding a person whose brain works rapidly, precisely, and under their control is very important. I'm not looking for people who have whims. I'm looking for people who have goals.
Yeah.
And having goals is critically important, and companies need to set them. Getting your team to follow the same goals is important. One of the ways you do that is you ask them what their goals are. I've been very successful with that, forming a team. I'm not a dictator. I have no interest in being a dictator. I don't have any fun being a dictator.
Yeah.
I have an awful lot of fun being a leader.
Yeah.
And it's been successful, at least so far. So, 40 years in.
Yeah. And so, if you don't mind sharing, can you ask me some of those questions? I'm curious what would an interview process look like for you? Because a lot of my audience is primarily, people who are into health and fitness. And, sorry, I'm a little distracted by the dog right now. Primarily my audience is health and fitness and people who are entrepreneurs. Mm-hmm. People who want to start their own business, who want to kind of go off, trail. Because working out every day, being disciplined, having your own business, having your own structure, wanting to be your own boss and kind of create your own life is very, I think I saw a statistic the other day where it was only 4% of the world is going down that path. Mm-hmm. And for me, it feels like 100% of the world because all the people I surround myself with are like that. So sorry, one second. I'm just going to grab her a toy.
There we go. You have already answered what would have been one of my first questions to ask you, which is why would you want to start your own company or work for a small company or work for a startup? And most people can't answer that question because most people don't want to. Yeah. Most people are happy working for a large company and being told what to do. If you like dancing without a tightrope, if you like a tightrope without a net, small business is a great way to do it, no matter what the small business is.
Yeah.
Because there's two sides to that coin. What you do matters, and what you do matters. Yeah. And you can't escape it. You can't escape the responsibility. Yeah. So I would ask you, why do you want to run or be part of a company like that? Number two, what do you want the company to be? I don't mean what do you want it to do. You've already said you want its health and fitness. I mean, what do you want a person who comes to work in the morning to be thinking about the company itself? My own companies have all been what you can call lifestyle companies. Yeah. We make allowances for people to have family and kids and so forth, and as a result, people tend to stay for 20 years in a high-tech company, which is extremely unusual. But what kind of company do you want? Do you want a hard-charging company that works 80 hours a week and burns people out? That's fine if that's what you want, and everybody knows that that's what they're getting into. Do you want a company that does has a specialty of some sort or the other and concentrates on that specialty? Or do you want a generalized company that does many different things? Yeah. You would have to answer those kinds of questions for yourself. The sort of mental focus point that I use for doing those things is the business plan. Every new company needs a business plan. Yeah. What is it going to cost to do what do I want to do? Yeah. what's it going to cost to get me there? Who do I need to get me there? How do I get those people? How do I get the customers I want? All of those are questions you have to ask and answer.
Yeah.
None of them will just stay the same for more than about an hour and a half.
Yeah.
It's the old thing about no battle plan survives contact with the enemy. No business plan survives contact with the market either.
Yeah.
That's not the point.
Yeah.
The point is, are you flexible enough to think through what it is required to make a business a success? So any questions I asked you if you were coming to work for me would be, will you help in the circumstance where you have no clue what you're doing, where none of us have no clue what we're doing?
Yeah.
Will you think the situation through and come up with the best solutions you can? If you're working for me, make suggestions to me that we can decide as a group what is the best thing to do.
Yeah.
And that may not be the best way to run a company, but it's worked for me for 40 years. So
And that's the one thing too I noticed about business is like, so with me with the marketing agency, when we first met, I just started it.
I remember that.
And I had no employees. I had no idea what I was doing. I had somewhat of an idea of what I was doing because I was helping friends. I was helping family. I was doing it for myself. But it's like a lot of stuff I was doing a lot harder. I was working a lot harder and not smarter. A lot of stuff I wasn't doing to, like if I can go back in time, I would have done things so much differently. Right?
Except if you could go back in time and were the person you were, then you wouldn't. The point is you've learned.
Yeah.
And the only way you could have learned is by doing what you did,
Yeah.
by making mistakes. You learn more from your mistakes. I mean, it's a trite statement, but it's true. You learn more from your mistakes than you do from your successes a lot of the time.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm in the same situation when we met because I was starting Blue Steel Adventure.
Yeah.
And I didn't know anything about YouTube or social media or anything. I'm 70-something years old. Of course I don't. But you did. So I found somebody who did, thanks to Brian.
Yeah.
And so far we've been successful with that.
Yeah.
It doesn't matter that you don't know what you're doing. Actually, it does matter. You shouldn't know what you're doing when you start. Because if you know what you're doing, that means somebody's done it. Somebody's already walked that path. You're just copying. If you want to do something that is yours, that is original, you won't have a clue what you're doing most of the time, at least at the beginning.
Yeah.
So that's the nature of life. And that's what most people fear. You say 4% are interested in this sort of thing.
Yeah.
It is the unknown that people fear.
So, and then I'll ask you another question. So a lot of people listen to great, and again, I also want to emphasize, Dave has a course that is out, and he's working on, we're actually working on it together to get it out on a website. So I would highly recommend you follow his YouTube channel, you follow his Instagram. I will also announce it on here when the course is out. I've personally gone through the entire course and I've learned so much about business and business fundamentals that I think it would benefit anyone and everyone watching this video to go through and, you know, take a couple hours, and I would even replay it and take notes because it has so much great information. And that's something that I think would benefit everyone.
Well, I got a lot of scars that, that those videos reveal.
Yeah. And it's always the people that give the best advice that have been through the most because they've made a lot of mistakes, they've learned a lot. And, you know, like for me, I'm only 21. I wouldn't say I give the best advice, but I give pretty decent advice for being.
Certainly you've given me wonderful advice. So.
Thank you. And what would you say for the people that have all this great information? The people that are, you know they can go out there and just do. They know that they should go to the gym. They know it's good for them. They know that, you know, sitting on the couch isn't good for them. They know that, hey, maybe they should get up and start working on, you know, the business that they've been dreaming of and then stop procrastinating and doing it a week later, you know? What would you say to those people who already have an action or who already have a plan but haven't taken action or who keep procrastinating on it?
Well, what I would say is get off your ass and get to work. I mean, that would be my statement, because I know from my own life that's the first step that's the hardest. It's the saying, all right, I'm now going to file that piece of paper I have to file with the government. I'm now going to call that person I don't want to talk to. I'm now going to deal with that unhappy customer and do it. Now, that doesn't mean you spend all of your time doing the miserable things. You're allowed to spend time doing the fun things too.
Yeah.
But any movement, any action in any direction is better than doing nothing.
Yeah.
Because you can always change direction easier than you can get started.
Yeah.
At least I can. So if you have a great idea, the first thing you want to do is focus it. How does this, my idea, turn into this, a company that's trying to do something? This idea will need to be focused, because companies can't do everything. They can only do a few things, and they can only do a few things really, really well. Now, they may do them spectacularly well, like, you know, Amazon and Google and so forth, or they may do them sort of well, but doing something, one thing, well in a company as a start is a good thing, but it's a danger to you with your ideas, because your ideas are often, I've got 1,000 good ideas. Being unfocused is just as bad as being immobile.
Yeah.
So be sure you do both. I've always done it with partners, and the reason is I can see their blind spots and they can see mine, but I can't see my own. And as a result, we tend to be better than we ever would have been apart.
Yeah. Now, you talked a lot about partners and how important that is. How do you find a good partner?
That is a very interesting question. It's interesting for several reasons, because the person who's the best partner at one stage of the business may not be the person who's the best partner at another stage of the business. I violate all the rules that I was ever taught in that I hire friends. In other words, I hire people that I know and trust, but that have the skills that I need. And often they will introduce me to people and so on, that expands and gets better and so forth. But I'm coming from a high-tech environment. I know a lot of people that are high-tech. I also have a lot of friends I would never hire. And I'm always very polite to them, but I never get around to hiring them. And that's an important thing to keep in mind, too. You will make mistakes. You will make mistakes with partners. I have. Or I've made mistakes that weren't mistakes when they started, but became mistakes. The person could not grow or could not move beyond a certain point, or couldn't handle a particular crisis that took place or whatever. And at that point, you separate yourself if you have to. I tend to stay longer than I should, giving people the benefit of the doubt, but also giving the situation the benefit of the doubt. So don't be afraid to leave, but don't leave at the first sign of trouble.
Yeah.
You know, I have a person that I have worked with in business briefly who has chronic problems with somebody criticizes them, they quit. Doesn't matter who criticizes them or why, they quit. They throw a tantrum, they walk out. Well, pretty soon they find they can't be hired anywhere because they quit too many people and people talk.
Yeah.
Don't be a sourpuss. You know, you have to get along with jerks sometimes.
Yeah.
You'll be a jerk yourself sometimes. Okay, you want some grace with the people that you're abusing, so don't abuse others. So, you know, put up with people who may not be having a good day. But finding the right partner consists of a lot of discussions, of talking, of deciding what the goals are, whether the goals you both have can be merged together and move in the same direction, and quite frankly, do they have the experience to make this a success? Now, when you're starting out a company, nobody has experience, and you grope your way to it. My first company, we tried to make everybody equal, and it was a complete miserable failure.
Yeah.
My second company, I picked people that I had worked with before, went out and raised $4.5 million in 1983. That was a lot of money. And we made it a success.
Yeah.
And the difference was Not that I had all this more experience that I had, but that I had some. But I also paid attention to, I read every book I could find on writing a business plan. Now it'd be every YouTube channel or whatever on the subject. Learn a lot about what you're trying to do. You'll never get it all down. You don't have to. You want your subconscious to know what to do in a circumstance. And the only way you do that is by looking at a lot of circumstances, learning from what other people have done and talking to people.
Yeah.
And so if you find there's somebody that you talk with really well and that you come to resolutions of problems, you might want to consider forming a company with them if they're interested. That's certainly the way mine has worked.
Yeah.
And I've, done more than one company with the same guy
Yeah.
As a business partner.
Yeah.
So
with that, you find your partner and you guys, so how do you know how do you get past that first step of like not really making, because like for me, when I've started a business, right?
Mm-hmm.
In the beginning, you're not making money.
Mm-mm.
In the beginning, you're spending a lot of money, you're losing a lot of money. And you really keep pushing, you're wasting a lot of time. I wouldn't say wasting, you're investing
Mm-hmm.
a lot of time into your business, but you don't really see progress. And that's where most people quit.
Mm-hmm.
And I can't blame them for it. I mean, it's the same with everything. With the gym, I was a fat kid, like really, really obese when I was growing up. And in the beginning, I didn't see results, and then out of nowhere, I'm like, whoa, that was me 2 months ago. And it's the same with business. You look at your numbers, you look at how you're doing business, you look at everything, and then 2 months later, you're like, what? I've come a really long way.
Yeah.
How do you think that whenever you're at that point, you just keep pushing and keeping the blinders on, or do you need to take a step back and reflect?
That's a very astute question. There is two horns of the dilemma. When do I quit and when do I stay? In a situation, in a particular problem, with a particular customer. I mean, it applies all the way across the board. And the answer is it's somewhere in between. You cannot quit at the first problem, because you're going to be solving problems in any successful business is going to be your main thing doing. It's solving problems, not building your company, unfortunately.
Yeah.
Hopefully you find time to build a company in the midst of solving the problems. On the other hand, beating a dead horse is not a sensible thing to do. I've often stayed too long. Yeah, you're so cute. I've often stayed too long with the company when I should have left before. Yes, you may get off now. Thank you. Where I should have quit before. Okay, fine. I lived through it. Check in with yourself.
Yeah.
Ask yourself, am I doing what I set out to do? Even if I'm not, am I happy with what I'm doing? Is it a reasonable place to be? Taken as overall, do I feel like I am moving towards success?
Yeah.
There's nothing wrong with wanting to be successful. There's nothing wrong with wanting to make money. A lot of people feel guilty about wanting to make money.
Yeah.
I never did.
Yeah.
I never cheat anybody. I don't steal. I don't lie. But I have nothing wrong with profit. I'm in favor of profit. I'm also in favor of obnoxious dogs. Yes. And you're one of them.
If you guys don't know, because they don't know, I just got she's 11 weeks old right now. She's just a puppy.
And she's also got teeth.
Yeah. She's in like the puppy nibbling phase, and she just wants to say hi to Dave. She was sleeping for the first half.
She knows I like dogs. Here, go play with your rope.
Come here. Here's your She's just taking over the podcast.
The single most advice that I could give somebody
Yeah.
who was interested in starting a business, who was interested in getting an idea and turning it into a way of life,
Yes.
is do it.
Yeah.
If you fail, you fail. You probably will fail the first 3 or 4 times. So I mean, it's what is it? The old thing about Colonel Sanders went to a dozen people with his recipe and before somebody bought. You have to do that.
Yeah.
And you're going to fail. I've learned an awful lot from my failures.
Yeah.
Learned some things from my successes too.
Yes.
But I've never given up. I've left, but I've never given up.
Yeah.
And, you know, so far, knock on wood, you know, half my companies that I've started have been successful.
Yeah.
Which is a pretty high success rate, actually, over the length of time that I've been doing this.
Yeah. And I'm like, for me, I'm working on starting a new company. I want to start a new company. I want to have multiple sources of income. You know, I like being completely open. Like my marketing agency, it's doing fairly well, right? But at the same time, it's not doing amazing to where I'm like financially like good. Like to where I don't really have to look at the price tag, to where I'm not too worried about like, you know, like I'm 21, I moved out of my parents' house, I have a nice apartment, I have a nicer car, right? But it's also, I'm not like financially okay to where I'm like, okay, I don't need to worry about rent. I don't need to worry about my car payment. I don't need to worry about this. I want to get to that point. And I'm sure everyone watching this wants to get to that point also.
Sure.
And what do you think it takes to get to that point?
Well, I remember asking my wife, how many companies do I have to sell before I can leave the lights on in a room when I leave? You will discover something interesting. You know, there's an old joke about an old trite thing about people who are wealthy never think they're wealthy. They always want more and want more. In reality, that isn't really true. An awful lot of people say, gee, I've done pretty well and this is fine. And I want to continue because I'm enjoying doing other things. I mean, I retired. The company I founded most recently is doing very, very well. And I had lots of interesting things I could do there. But I wanted to do other things. And so I did. You will find, though, that you never want to sit back on your laurels and say, okay, I've done everything I need to do. Well, because if you train yourself to be successful in business, which is very similar to training yourself to be successful in life, you will want to continue to use those skills that you have developed. Not because you have to work, but because you want to. Because you have become the kind of person you wanted to be. And I think that's the most important part of all of this, is that you be true to yourself. Do what you want. I don't mean selfishly. I mean, what do I actually want to accomplish? And how can I accomplish that honestly, with integrity, and helping other people? If you want to run a company for the sake of running a company, go do something else with your life. If you want to run a company for bringing ideas to fruition, to help achieve goals of your own or other people's in the world, external, go for it. And you're going to work hard. You're going to work harder than you ever have in your life.
Yeah.
You're also going to enjoy things a lot more than you thought you would.
Yeah.
And have frustrations and headaches and all of the above.
Yeah. And you've mentioned something. So when you first start a company, you're going to be struggling. You shouldn't know what you're doing.
It'd be almost impossible to start a company when you're young or you knew what you were doing.
Yeah. So with me, I have some ideas, you know, and I know I came to you before with like AI ideas when it was very popular or things like that. Now, where can someone go? Like, let's say, you know, they have an idea for creating an amazing AI program that can help a lot of people. But now they don't have the money. And I know your course talks about this, which is why I recommend everyone to go get it. But they don't have the money. They don't have the team. They don't have a partner. They just have an idea. And they know it can be very successful. They know it can be very well. What can they do, not having the skills to create that program, not having the money to hire the people to create that program, and not really knowing the logistics of what creating a program like that would look like?
I can only give you examples from my own life. In the various companies that I have started, I have had strong ideas in pattern recognition things like optical character recognition, like identification of objects and so on. But I've never known exactly how to do it.
Yeah.
I talk to two categories of people when I'm starting out. I talk to people who have money and who are interested in investing in new enterprises. Often, where my ideas with that new enterprise are fairly vague. Now, they don't want you to be too vague. They want you to know what they're putting money in. But I remember my first company, and I cover this in the course. My partner and I were suggested to go talk to somebody that they may be able to help you in the business. And by the way, if somebody says, go talk to Mr. A, go talk to Mr. A immediately and then report back. We went, had lunch, were offered $25,000 at the first round. No, this is 40 years ago. $25,000 at the first round of investment. I said, man, that sounds kind of nice. So we went to the second person the person advised, and they offered us the same.
Yeah.
And we said, okay, I can do that. And then we put it together with venture capitalists.
Yes.
So my companies, some have been with venture capital, meaning you go out, there are companies that do this. Others have, the funding has been put together by wealthy people that I knew, but weren't professional investors, or weren't professional investors in companies. Example, my most recent company, Aletheon, as a mathematician, which is what my training is, all mathematicians wind up working for either the NSA or for a hedge fund. I went with the hedge fund route. And I've done a lot of work with hedge funds as a mathematician for modeling of so forth. Well, as a result, you wind up knowing people who are a lot richer than you are. And so I was working with a company in Bellevue. And when I said that I was leaving and going to go do something new, they of course wanted to know what I was going off to do. And I told them, and they became our lead investor. Yeah. They don't do those kind of investments, but the guy has enough money that, a few $1 million here and there didn't much matter. So he invested because he knew me and he knew my abilities. He didn't know my ability to do this thing. All he knew was my ability to do his thing. But I had shown that I knew what I was doing when it came to technology. And so he allowed me the money that I then could go hire the people who could actually do the work. Because I certainly am no programmer. I mean, I can program, but I'm pretty poor at it. I don't need to be. I need to have the vision, and I need to talk to the people, and I need to find the people who can do the work, and I need to find the people who can raise the money, and I need to find the people who can sell the product.
Yeah.
But all of those people are available. The people that are least available are the people who put it all together in the first place.
Yeah.
The leaders. Those are the 4% that you're talking about, that are not afraid or are not too afraid of failure. Because you will. I keep coming back to that. You'll fail.
Yeah.
You're not trying to be successful 100% of the time. You're trying to be successful.
Yeah.
And that's what counts. So go do what you want. When you make a mistake, don't make that mistake the next time.
Yeah.
It's really nothing else you can do.
Yeah.
It's learn what you can from every single thing, person, idea, product, whatever that you deal with.
Yeah.
Take the good and leave the bad and move on. And sometimes you'll fail completely and be out on your butt and with no money.
Yeah.
Okay. You started there before. You know how to get out of that one.
Yeah.
So go at it again.
Yeah.
Don't be afraid of failure. Nobody wants to fail, and do your best not to.
Yeah.
But the best thing you can do when you fail is to analyze, what did I do wrong, and how do I not do that again?
Yeah. Because I see a lot of people, I see two types of people, and I'm sure you do too. There are people who make mistakes. Everyone makes mistakes.
Everyone makes mistakes.
Everyone fails.
Right.
But there's two types of people that react to failing and making mistakes. There is people who learn from it, and there's people who don't learn from it. And the biggest characteristic I've found is the people who say, I messed up, I made a mistake. You first have to take accountability for the mistake you made. You can't expect to grow if you don't take accountability and know that you made a mistake in the first place.
Nope.
And I'll give you guys the best example. Me buying my car. I loved the car. I wanted it. But I made a mistake because I am 21. I might not have had the best financial means to buy a 40-something thousand dollar car, right? That was a mistake that I made. And I realized that I made a mistake and I'm taking accountability for it. And I'm also being like, bit in the ass for it because now I have the car payments to pay, and I realize that it's a lot of money for a car that is also depreciating. And with the whole entrepreneurship and the business mindset, it's like I want all my assets to appreciate. I would have much rather bought like a year or 2-year-old, the same car, and it wouldn't depreciate as much as that one did. So with me taking accountability for the mistake I made, which was buying the car, and me realizing that I messed up, now I know in the future I'm not really gonna buy a new car.
Right.
There is no reason for me to. Now, if I have unlimited money, if I become a millionaire, and I really want like a brand new Lamborghini.
Then you go buy it.
Yeah. But that's a treat to myself. That's not an investment.
No.
That's nothing. That's for me being a millionaire, being financially free. And that is something that I will buy cash, outright, and I won't have to do payments. I won't have to worry about. It wouldn't affect my income.
Never borrow money to buy a depreciating asset. Period.
Yeah.
Don't do it.
Yes.
Now, pay cash for something you want? Absolutely. You're not paying interest payments. You're losing the investment money off of that money, but you're not paying the interest payments. Don't borrow for depreciating assets. Borrow for appreciating assets. Stock. I mean, I recently we were having a discussion about that I had some credit card debt and I had some other things, and my wife was saying, why don't you pay it off? And I said, all right, here's the sum total of all the debt that we have. I'm paying 16% on the average, 16% interest on that. Meanwhile, in the money that I've got invested in that, I've made 40% in the past year. Now, will you tell me again why I should pay that off?
Yeah.
But I know what I'm doing.
Yeah. And
it takes learning.
Yeah. Yeah. And I actually had the same talk with my girlfriend, right? And it was pretty similar, It's my finances right now aren't the best. And I have some money in stock, some money in crypto, and I'm like, well, it's growing. Nvidia alone, the last couple, like this year.
I bought Nvidia 2 years ago. I'm really happy.
Right? Yeah. So sure, I have 20-something thousand left on my car and some credit card debt, but me paying that off slowly over time. And my money appreciating in Nvidia stocks, my money doing this. Well, now I can take the money out of Nvidia stock and pay off a good amount of my car payment, or take money out of crypto and pay this. So it's.
But don't pay it down if you're making more money than the cost of your borrowing.
Exactly.
Because you borrowed it for the car, but you've really got that money invested because the only place that money is coming from is from your investments.
Exactly.
If your investments are doing well, and the way the market's been the past 2 years, it's been great.
Yeah.
I don't know why, but I don't ask stupid questions. I just invest.
Yeah. I found a really great app that shows you where a lot of politicians and a lot of higher end people, where they're putting their trades at. So I like to follow them because they tend to know where the market goes. So that's what I've been doing. And when they sell, I sell. When they buy, I buy, because I'm not a market expert. I like to listen to people who are.
Right.
And do my own research.
And I made a fair amount of money from market timing for other people, for hedge funds, things like that. But I have a very simple, one philosophy that I'll tell all of you people for investing, and this is for stock investing. Find a good product, a good company that has had a severe problem of some sort. So, for example, when Chipotle had the E. coli breakout, I knew that Chipotle was a well-managed company. They had a product that everybody wanted, and they got nailed because of the E. coli. And I took every penny I could find, and I put it in Chipotle. And I had to sit there for a year before anything started to move, but it did move, and boy, has it moved since.
Yeah.
And the same thing was true when COVID hit. The oil industry collapsed.
Yeah.
I put every penny I could find into leveraged oil stocks.
Yeah. Wow. So
And
you
that has
leverage.
paid off leveraged oil
Yeah.
stocks, and that paid off really well. But I knew what I was doing.
Yeah.
So don't start off doing radical, but the Chipotle investment, don't put every penny you can find in it. Put half the pennies you can find in it, and you'll learn.
Yeah.
And there are, of course, other investment things. I mean, the nice thing is markets tend to go up.
Yeah.
They don't always go up, so be sure that you can weather the storms when they don't.
Yeah.
But people say as you get older, you're supposed to be more cautious and more conservative in your investing. Well, I haven't reached that age yet. And the reason is very straightforward, because the growth, if you diversify the risk, and this I'm talking about for investments, if you diversify the risks, each individual one may be relatively risky, but the aggregate isn't. And you're going to make more money from that than you're going to do by sticking it in the interest rate bearing thing.
Yeah.
You're going to go broke that way in a period of inflation.
Yeah.
I mean, people talk about who makes money in an inflationary environment like we have right now.
Yeah.
And the answer is, what is inflation? Inflation is rise in asset prices.
Yeah.
Who owns the assets? Wealthy people, because they bought stuff, and the stuff are like oil stocks and and Chipotle and whatever, Nvidia, and those go up in price faster than the inflation. I was thinking of starting the first gropings at the idea of doing a YouTube channel. I went to Brian Click, who is my coach for the competitions, and he of course recommended you because you had done so well and so much for him. And I can't say I've been anything other than absolutely ecstatic about the work that we've done together. And I wanted to say this, I wanted your audience to hear this, because I've been doing this for a very long time, and I am really good at spotting people who have the ability to become successful. They won't necessarily become successful, but they have the ability to. You have the ability. If anything, you'll chase too many cars, but you'll catch one, and then what do you do with it? No. You have the ability to be a success. At your age, don't rush it. Work on what you like, what you enjoy, what's bringing money in, and spend some time enjoying the life along the way. Most people spend too much time enjoying life along the way and never accomplish anything. You're not at risk at that. So don't go too far the other direction either. Yeah. It took me a long time to understand what the balance was. But use the ability you have to pursue one step at a time, but with a distant goal also in mind. Yeah. So you need near goals, you need far goals, and you need them to line up with each other. Yeah. The far goal will always change because the world always changes, and you always change. So what? You want it to be steering towards whatever the goal is at the moment. You have the ability to do that. I've seen the way you work. I've seen the dedication you put in. I certainly could not have done what you're doing now at your age, when I was your age. I was actually dealing with the United States Navy at that point. So, which is, an interesting experience for anyone, hence the veteran. Yeah. And the advice that I give you is the advice I would give anybody that wants to start an enterprise. It doesn't have to be a business. I know people who've done not-for-profits. I'm constitutionally incapable of it. I like money too much. But people who are better than I am, have been, that I've had the pleasure of working with, are, do it in nonprofits. They do it in things that are helping people. I have a close friend who's been a business partner in several for-profit ventures, whose main thing is nonprofit world. Yeah. Reading machines for the blind, mine-sweeping operations, those sorts of things. Yeah. He's organized those like for-profit companies and been extremely successful. He's a MacArthur Genius Grant winner. Been extremely successful in doing that in the nonprofit world, where the supporting structure is not there like it is in the for-profit. In the nonprofit world, people are not used to thinking about, how do I make the cash flow balance, because they're asking for donations. And he said, no, we're going to make product. We're going to sell product. We're going to make money and put it all back in the company because you can't take the money out. It doesn't matter what those goals are. It doesn't have to be making money.
Yeah.
Now, I think you will want to make money. I think you will make money. And there's nothing, I make no apologies for liking the idea of honest wealth. I mean, I remember, and I've kept it in my head, and I recommend it as a bit of advice, some of the oldest advice in the world. It was on the temple of Asclepius, the god of health and medicine in ancient Greece. It said, health is the best that heaven sends. Second is wealth justly earned. Third is to be young among one's friends. And set those goals and live that life, and you can.
Yeah.
And yes, health, fitness are very important. When having been a cancer survivor, it's scary to face the end of your life.
Yeah.
But it's not that scary.
Yeah.
If you've lived. If you've lived a life worth living, when the end comes, well, I don't happen to think it is the end, but even if you do think it's the end, you've done things. You don't have to regret not having done things. You're proactive. You're doing things. You won't always succeed. I don't think you expect to always succeed.
And I will tell you something. I've failed a lot more than I have succeeded.
Anybody that's successful has.
I have, if you guys know anything, I'm counting like 14 different drop shipping websites. 14 of them failed. And I have only had 4 successful ones, with 2 of them us just breaking even. And the 2 that were successful were enough for me to have somewhat of, to put me at a higher percentage for people my age.
Yeah.
So sometimes you can be failing over and over and over and over again. And it's that one thing that you've done so many times and you've learned. Because first time, looking back at it, everything was wrong. Second time, a little bit better. Third, fourth, fifth, go all the way up to the 10th time, and then it was just a product. Because I had the website well made, I had the ads well made, I had this, because I failed 10 times before that. So
right.
It's hard to not give up, but it's also easy to not give up.
Yes. And the trick is not only knowing how to stay, but knowing when not to. Know when you're beating a dead horse. That's always been my hard problem. I tend to stay too long. Okay, fine. I'd rather stay too long than quit too soon.
Yeah.
Because I've been very successful after having to fight my way through some pretty awful times. And I can see you having the stick-to-itiveness to do that. And I recommend to anybody that they get used to a wild ride. But it's fun. I wouldn't have it any other way. I've been an entrepreneur all my life, or practically all of my working life. I worked at Jet Propulsion Labs, and I worked briefly for Ford Aerospace. And other than that, I haven't had a real job in my life.
Yeah.
And I've done pretty well.
How would you say, for example, because most of my audience are people my age,
Mm-hmm.
how would you say someone my age can make his first $1 million? That's my goal. I would love to make $1 million this year. I don't know if I could with the numbers unless someone gives me $1 million. But
I'll answer your question,
yeah.
But I'll give you the real answer first.
Yeah.
And the real answer is make your first 100,000 and then go on.
How can someone make their first 100K?
Pay attention to where you see money coming in now, where you see demand, not just for your time, but for your abilities. And then focus and concentrate on turning that into something that you're successful with. Be careful of those who see your ability and want to use you. I don't mean necessarily that they're abusing you or anything, but you don't want, you're not working for other people, you want to work for yourself.
Yeah.
So learn to work for yourself, pursue where money is, where you see money coming in now, where you see money coming into other people that you have the ability to do something with. But far more important than that is get out and try different things.
Yeah.
Because you don't know what one's going to work. You don't need a million successes in your life. You only need one.
Yeah.
And, you know, the old thing is about for investment, for venture capital investment, the people have said half the companies fail very quickly. Of the top 10, 5 fail very quickly. 3 more are the walking dead, meaning they don't fail, but they don't really make anybody much money either. They kind of keep the employees employed, and that's about it. And then 2 are often great and really great successes. You're not going to find those 2 by thinking through it. You're going to find those 2 by going out and doing things and trying things and looking at what other people are being successful at and what you're being successful at. But remember, it's your life, not theirs. You're going to pursue it the way you want to pursue it. And you're going to change the way you do it if it doesn't work. That's the important thing. The best way to make your first $1 million is to not be looking at making your first $1 million. Look at producing value in the world. Look at producing something that other people want. For me, it's always been products. It's been high-tech products, but it's that use pretty advanced technology. But it can be, I have a good friend, we interviewed him on Blue Steel Adventure, that makes boxes.
Yeah.
Corrugated paper boxes.
Yeah.
And he's made far more money than I will ever see in doing that.
And that was the biggest thing. So when I did drop shipping, I learned something very big. It's not necessarily about the product. Mm-hmm. It's about the consumer and if the product is in need. Because I have had a friend in drop shipping make 10 times more money than I've ever made in a month selling envelopes.
Envelopes?
Envelopes. And it's simple pack of envelopes. And, you know, his biggest consumer was his age range was 50 to 80 and female.
Okay, the only people who write letters.
And he made, and when he was making his advertisements, he was only marketing those people. And it wasn't anything special. It was just simple paper envelopes that you can go to the dollar store and buy, or you can go to your local Fred Meyer and buy anywhere. It was not even that they were cheaper, because they were probably cheaper on Amazon. He just marketed the right people, and he created that need. And that's all it is like, you know, I feel that if there is one skill, and I want you to give your input on this, but for me, if there is one skill that a person needs to have, it's sales.
Mm-hmm. Absolutely.
And if there is one skill that you need to be a millionaire, it's sales, you know?
But it's not sales as you may be thinking of it, of the ability to sell a product. It's the ability to sell yourself.
Yes.
And if you can sell yourself, you can sell a product.
Yeah.
And the way you sell, at least I sell, and I've known an awful lot of actual salespeople, and I've worked with them, and they're no more integrity challenged than anybody else is that have a good product and sell it honestly.
Yeah.
And people will buy it.
Yes.
Now, of course, you push and you advertise and you go to shows and you talk and you talk and you talk. But if you have a good product, if you believe in that product, and if you pay attention to the customer and what the customer actually wants, one of the things that always amazed me in business was that people were wondering what the customer wants, and I said, why don't you ask them?
Yeah.
You know, the easiest way to find out what somebody wants is to ask them. So ask them.
Yeah.
Find out what your customers want. What would make this better? What would make this easier? What would you buy more of? And you'll find that They will quite often tell you.
Yeah.
But it's often very simple things like the envelopes, like the corrugated boxes that people want to buy. I'm not interested in those areas. I'm interested in high tech because I like, artificial intelligence and pattern recognition and all those things. And I probably could have made a great deal more money than I have by pursuing something that had a broader consumer base. Yeah, but I wouldn't have had as much fun.
I highly recommend for any person who is interested in any type of business, any type of sales business, anything that has to do with just making more money in general, to check out your course, because it will benefit you one way or another.
I'm going to recommend the course, and this is, of course, obviously self-serving, but I threw a lot of my own self into that course about what made me what I am.
Yeah.
And how making me what I am helped me become successful in business.
Yeah.
It starts with yourself. It does not start with a business idea. Be the kind of person who can be successful. Be the kind of person who is willing to do the work that is required. Be the kind of person who looks for an opportunity and then exploits it. I don't mean in a negative way of exploitation. I mean, you see the opportunity, you take it. Learning to be that kind of person, I concentrate on in the course every bit as much as I concentrate on how to be successful specifically in business. Because once you learn how to be successful in life, being successful in business is easier.
Yeah.
So, well, thank you very much. I have certainly enjoyed talking. I certainly hope people do go check out the site.
Yeah.
We have a lot of fun over there, I might say.
And also, sorry if I was distracted for part of the podcast. I just got a new dog. This is Luna.
Hi, Luna.
She's a new addition to the family. She's just 11 weeks old right now, so